Welcome. The good thing is we didn't have a snow day today. Even better news for me as a principal is that our kids got to go outside for recess, so that's a win for everyone. Welcome to the Sioux Falls School District, particularly Terry Redland Elementary School. Many of you, I'm sure, have never heard of this school or seen this school before, so thank you for coming in. Very proud of this school, so thank you for coming to the Here Comes Kindergarten event. I've been in your shoes several years ago. I have a second grader now, I have a kindergartner who kind of was going through this same deal, and then I have a 3-year-old, so I'll get to go through kind of that kindergarten routine and excitement one more time. Today, what we're going to do, I will go through just kind of an overview of what to expect of what a typical school day could look like, some other challenges and fun things that your child could go through within a kindergarten class here in Sioux Falls. Then Tricia Nas, who is one of our kindergarten teachers, will kind of say, all right, this is what it's really like. So here we go. What will my kid do in kindergarten? Basically, what we want to do is have them engaged. We want them to connect. The most important thing is we want to develop relationships with your kids so that they feel safe. They're connected to their teachers, to the adults at their school, so they can feel free to learn. Whether it's academic, whether it's social, whether it's emotional. We know it's the whole child. Of course, we want them to be immersed in literacy. We want them to be immersed in hearing stories. So they'll be listening a lot, developing skills that help them to become readers. All those pre-emergent skills we will be teaching them, and eventually, throughout the year, then they'll become readers. Exploring numbers, understanding what numbers mean. Sure, saying that 1, 2, 3, 4, but understanding the value of those numbers. And then just the basics and the developmentally appropriate ways to write. So first you're gonna see just scribbles and pictures, and then slowly over time you're gonna see those letters form, and then letters together to make those words. Length of the school day. Most schools within the Sioux Falls School District have a 7:55 to 2:45 schedule. Some schools are a little bit different. Usually, supervision starts 15 minutes before the official, so 7:40 is when supervision starts. So if it's a nice day, which hasn't happened in a while, usually students can be on the playground at 7:40, adults are out there supervising. If you drop them off before, just know that there's no adult supervision. So we really encourage, if at all possible, dropping them off at 7:40. We know the realities of that, though. It's difficult when we all have to get to work. And then there's also supervision after school till about 3 o'clock. So here at Terry Redland, we have staff members outside making sure students are getting picked up or following their after-school plan. We usually don't let kids play on the playground after school just because it's so busy and crazy. At 3 o'clock, when a bell rings, usually what happens is those supervisors will sweep those kids, bring them in to the office area, then we can start making some phone calls. So just really big is having that after-school plan, whether they get picked up by a daycare or if they walk home, making sure they're following that plan. Recess, best part of the day. Usually, kindergarten will have 3 recesses most days. Some schools are different depending on what their schedule looks like, but usually they'll have 3 times to kind of develop socially, which is just as important as all those other aspects of kindergarten. On days they have PE or gym, usually they only have 2 because we count that activity in the gym as one of their other times to run around. Lunch and meals, most lunches will be 45 minutes in length. That's not 45 minutes to eat. We tie in a recess in there. Typically it's 20 to 25 minutes to eat lunch, and then some schools have recess before lunch. Most schools have recess after lunch. Most schools in the Sioux Falls School District, you fill out an application if you want to be on free and reduced lunches. You can also access all of your stuff on the My School Bucks app. I believe that's correct. So you can manage that. You can get alerts, hey, your balance is running low, and you can also input money into that. It tends to be pretty slick. Specials. All schools in the Sioux Falls School District have specials. Art, music, and PE, along with library. Art, music, and PE occur twice a week, 35 minutes each. Library occurs once a week for 35 minutes. Once again, kind of that whole child, getting them exposed to everything. Things to consider. One of the things that, as a former kindergarten parent, I know my wife and I were really wanting to know what supplies we were supposed to get. So of course we look at the general one that comes out at Walmart or whatnot. That's important to look at, but just know most of the time your school or your teacher will give you a little bit more specific list. So you may be asked to get several more notebooks or more glue sticks depending on what types of projects they do. So just know you can rush to get those things, but it might change once your child meets their teacher or their school has a specific need. Another big thing is just communication. We are required as schools, if your child doesn't show up to school and we haven't heard anything, we will reach out to you. So we will reach out to your primary numbers. If we can't get a hold of anyone, we'll reach out to your emergency contacts because we want to make sure that your child's okay. Something didn't happen on the way to school. So just making sure that you let the school know if your child's going to be sick or if they have an appointment. That's important. Also, we know that phone numbers change. That way, if for some reason your child gets sick at school, we can get a hold of you. I know that when one of my 3 daughters, if they're sick at school and they're throwing up, they don't want to hang out in the nurse's office. They just want mom or dad to pick them up. So that's important. Also, if you have emergency contacts, making sure that those are updated. How can we get off to a great start? It's the routines. I think it's funny when I think about today, I heard a stat that we haven't had a 5-day school week since before Christmas break, just because of all the snow days and because of all the late starts. So that's been hard for everyone, teachers and students, coming back, getting into that routine. So routine is very important for our youngest learners. Making sure you get plenty of sleep. I know my middle child, Juliet, the first week of school when she started, she was falling asleep an hour before her bedtime, just because their brains are working so hard. They're digesting so much information, so they're going to be much more tired that first week of school. Sleep is important. Breakfast, making sure you get a good breakfast. All of our schools offer a breakfast program. Here at Terry Redland, we have something called Breakfast in the Classroom. Several schools offer that. That means we just give them breakfast once they get into school. 7:55, they get a chance to eat breakfast within their room, but not all schools do that. Most schools have breakfast opportunity from 7:40, actually 7:30, until school begins. So that's something to think about. Backpack ready. I have 3 daughters, and one does a great job of keeping things organized and getting stuff out of her backpack. The other one, it's just a mess. If we didn't check in there, it would never get cleaned out. So just one of those things is checking that backpack for correspondence and just making sure it's ready to go. It's important that as parents, you're their number one teachers, and I know Tricia will talk about that as well. It's just important that communication and that partnership happens. We know that that's how our students and our kids will learn best. So if you have any questions or concerns or you're not quite sure, always feel free to reach out to your child's teacher, your child's principal, so that we can problem solve anything that is happening. Support your child's learning at home. Just continue to ask them questions about the day. Continue to read to them, even as they get older than kindergarten. Kids love to be read to. Learn about ways you can support the school, be involved. PTAs or PTOs, those are great ways to kind of get involved. If you have time to volunteer, all schools welcome any and all help when it comes to that. And then attendance matters. As you can see here at Terry Redland, attendance is very important. We plaster it everywhere. If they're not at school, they're not going to be learning. So if we can get them to school, that's a win for everyone. Now, of course, if they're really sick, we don't want them here. But you can see that we value it almost more than anything else, because we can't connect, we can't develop those relationships with kids if they're chronically gone. So it's important that they get to school. Kindergarten registration, I believe the night is Thursday, March 28th. So a month from now is where you would go to your home attendance center so you can meet some of the kindergarten teachers there. You can also register there, so they will have Chromebooks and computers or paper copies, but you can also do it ahead of time, which might save you some time that night. So that's what those orange handouts are for. It gives you a little bit of a cheat sheet if you want to register for kindergarten online. So this kind of just shows how to get to the school district website, click Parents, School Registration. There's a little tab for kindergarten registration, and then it talks you through all those different things. It says if you have a child already, you click here. If you're brand new to the district, click New Online. That sometimes can help you. You can do it in the quiet of your home, on your own time, as opposed to maybe the busyness of that night. And here's Juliet. I will tell you that every student and every child is different. Your child may be thrilled and just excited to go to school, and you may have a child that's like, no way, I do not want to do this, I want to stay home still. Juliet, even though she was smiling, she was bawling. So she was the one, she's my middle child, she cried for the first week of school. And I'm a principal, right? So I'm like, come on, you can't do this, Juliet. So just know, give it patience. So continue to support your child if they're having a tough transition, because guess what? She loves school. I tried to videotape her this morning reading and say, I love kindergarten, but she was pretty tired, so I didn't get that video. But trust me, if you give that patience, give your child patience, they're going to flourish, and that's kind of what we want. So now we have the expert, Mrs. Nas, coming up here. So I'm going to switch something out.
All right. Not very good on microphones here. We'll see how I do. Some of the things that I'm going to talk about are things that Ryan also talked about. So I'll try not to spend too much time on that and go to some of the stuff he didn't quite talk about as much. So first of all, yes, I'm Tricia Nas. I teach here at Terry Redland. And kindergarten is awesome year. Awesome year. You will see so many incredible changes in so many ways in your kids throughout this year. Just having done conferences in the last couple of weeks, had a chance to sit down with parents and show them our writing folders and how their writing has grown from when they first came to kindergarten and they weren't able to write, is some not even their name, and just to make scribbles and trying to draw a picture of something that they wanted to draw, and how I would write that for them. And then as we go through the year, and we aren't even all the way, we're not all the way through the year yet. And it's amazing to see how you can just see right when they start writing letters that you can really read, and where they start to maybe hear the beginning of mom, to know that's and write that down. And to where now we have at least, if not writing words and sentences that you can kind of make out and that they can do with a little bit of help, they're at least writing letters and letters and letters and letters. They know that that text is what is writing. And so pair that with the improvements in being able to draw things and the spatial aspects of drawing and things like that. It's pretty amazing. So that's just a piece of what they'll do. So I'll move on here. First, I want to talk just a little bit about what you can do to help your child be ready to go into school that first day. One of the very important things is to give them a sense of responsibility, to be able to know, I can take care of myself. I can do my zippers. I can button my pants. I can tie my shoes, things like that. I can open up the packages at lunch or at snack, the fruit snacks and things like that. When kids can do those things for themselves, they right away have a sense of accomplishment and they feel like, yes, this is good, I can do this. Following directions, giving kids more than just one direction. To go get their coat and their backpack and come to the door. Give them more than one step to do and have them practice that. It's something that might be harder in the beginning, but they will get multiple instructions throughout the day where they might have to remember 2 or 3 things to do. So any prep work you can do on that is helpful. Some of the academic things, identifying letters, sounds, writing their name, counting, Sorting objects, you can do that when you're playing. Identifying numbers and things like that, those are all very important. They are also things that they're going to work on all year in kindergarten. Some of the very important things that you can help to instill at home, more so than those academic things, is just enjoying books, enjoying reading, enjoying playing together and talking about what you're doing. What are they building? What are you going to do with it? How could you put this, how could you draw this on your paper? Anything like that that you can do is helpful. Understanding positional words. Put it beneath you or in front of you. I'm going to go behind you, so they know where those are. And then also the social skills of sharing, playing with others, taking turns. Of course, those are very important, and sometimes things that kids struggle with a little bit when they get into the structure of kindergarten and having to follow those directions and get along with the other kids trying to do the same thing. So, very important. Yeah, just work with them on any of these things, and that will help them in their day. So, the routine, the daily routine, Ryan kind of talked about. In language arts, they'll have shared reading, making meaning, vocabulary, small group work, independent reading, and writing and handwriting. So all of that will be worked into their day. We have a very, very busy day. They'll have math every day. Most teachers will do a calendar time where they talk about the days of the week, they talk about counting, they talk about what special days are coming up, maybe what the weather is, how many kids are here today, how many are gone, how many do we have every day, or how many are we supposed to have every day. They'll have lunch and recess, 2 or 3, as Ryan talked about. Science, health, and social studies, they'll have that every week as well, and then the specials that he talked about. Just a few things to keep in mind when they have those specials. Always make sure you know when your child has library, when they have gym, so they can have that library book back, have their gym shoes, and have all the right clothing for their special that day. Right now, especially with snow boots and all that, if kids forget their tennis shoes to change into and they have gym today, it's kind of hard to do the things they're doing in snow boots. So, also art. This is something I'm going to tell you. On the school supply list, a lot of times it says an art shirt. I would say check with your teacher about that, check with the art teacher about that before you go buy a special shirt for art. I know here at Terry Redland, the art teacher doesn't tend to use them. And if we do any painting in the classroom, I just always ask you, please just never send them to school in their Sunday best, anything that you wouldn't want to get dirty or possibly get a stain on. Just be careful of that. So before you do anything special for art shirts, just check with your school on that. Snack, that is dependent on school also and on teachers, so just make sure you know if you need to bring a snack for the week or for the day, so the kids have those. And then just appropriate clothing. Like Ryan said, we did finally get outside today, which is a good thing, but we are outside if the temperature is 0 degrees or above. So it can be awfully cold and they need to be outside. So just make sure they always have that appropriate clothing. Kindergarten registration he talked about, open house in August before school starts. That is a very important time to make sure you schedule in and get in to see your child's teacher. Even if you're not able to go that night, maybe call the school and just arrange a time when you can come in to meet, especially if you have a child who's super shy and gets anxious and things like that. It's very, very important that you make that connection right away and they see where they're going. It's a little less anxiety ridden on that day. So let's see. Yeah, make a plan for what your child is doing after school. Make sure your child or your teacher knows that. The first week or so of school, typically teachers will make sure they watch and make sure that kids get to their parents and all that. I always stand outside on the line with my kids and I tell them, you do not leave until you show me that you're going to your mom or dad or that you're going to whoever you need to go with. So make sure your teacher knows that, so they can make sure they get your child to where they need to go. If it's a daycare van, if it's a bus, if it's a brother or sister, make sure they've got a place to meet. So we don't want kids not knowing what they're doing. We've had a lot of kids crying on the line because somebody's not here yet and they don't know what to do. So that makes it tough to get back the next day. So, and of course also medications, or if there's any health concerns with your child, right away get that information to your teacher at open house and make sure you get that information to the nurse. We don't want any major mishaps because of not knowing that. Ryan talked a little bit about that routine. Kids in kindergarten age need 10 to 12 hours of sleep a night. That's a lot of sleep. So work on, a couple weeks ahead of time, work on getting them into bed early, which is really hard. I know. I have 3 kids I went through the ropes with. And it's hard in that summertime to get them to bed. It's light outside. Pull those blinds, pull the shades, make it as dark as you can, try to get them into that routine, because they do take a couple weeks to establish. And even with all that sleep, they're going to be tired at the end of a kindergarten day. Most kids maybe have had preschool, half day, something like that, and that full day is really tough on kids sometimes. So by lunchtime, they're ready to be done. So get them as used to that routine as they can. So the school supplies he also talked about. I would check with your teacher and make sure they don't have some specific needs that they would like you to have. I know I believe notebooks are on the list, but some teachers would like the composition notebooks that are not ring bound and things like that. So just check with your teacher on those things. And backpacks, that is something that I always stress. There are a lot of really cute little backpacks out there, but please, even though they seem huge on your child, just make sure you have a regular sized backpack, because those smaller backpacks, folders don't fit in them, your library books might not fit in them. When they've got snow pants and shoes and all that, they're hard if the backpack is kind of a mini size. So just make sure you've got a full size backpack. They're small, but they need the space. So. What can you do at home? Maintain that consistent schedule. Give opportunities for them to take responsibility for themselves, putting things away, getting dressed independently, completing a job for you. Ask them to clean up all the things on the floor in the living room and expect them to do that. Read to them every day. Talk with them, not to them about what's going on, but with them about it. Ask them questions. What did you notice in this book? What did you notice about what that little boy did? What do you think, what would you do if that was you? What would you do if someone was being kind of mean to you? Or what are you wondering about? Wonder is a big word in kindergarten. We talk a lot of times. What are you wondering right now about this story? What are you wondering about what's going to happen? So talk about all those things. Have them draw. Practice drawing. You can draw about something that has happened. You can model it for them. We do a lot of things like that, especially in the beginning parts of the year where we direct draw and we show them, okay, let's start with the eyes. Now let's add the nose and the mouth. Now let's add the head, so that kids get an idea of spatially where things go on the page. If you're drawing a house or you're drawing a tree, whatever. So you can direct that, or just let them explore on their own too. Play games with them. Taking turns and using dice, games that use dice, where they can roll the dice and they'll just see those 3 dots and they know that's 3. We've counted it, we've done it enough times, I see that pattern, that's 3. Those are all things that come in very handy in kindergarten for them to already know. At your grocery store, count the items that you're putting into your cart. Count when you're picking up the toys, things like that, so they can see that this is not just stuff we do to count. This is in the real world. We need to know how many things do we have here. Encourage them to create, build, color, cut, glue. Cutting and gluing is sometimes a little scary, but cutting and gluing, those are 2 skills that they really need to know and need to have for fine motor skills, for a lot of the things they're going to be doing that they'll want to do independently. Talk to them during TV time. Talk to them about what's happening on the shows you're watching, just like you do in your books. Talk to them about what's happening and what they're learning from that and how they would use that information. And then just have conversations. Talk to them. What happened today? What did you like about today? What was the best thing that you saw today? Who did you play with? What did you do? Have them talk to you about what their days are like and what they're thinking. Most of all, just emphasize that kindergarten is going to be awesome for them. The more excited you are about them going to kindergarten, the more excited they're going to be. And kids typically are pretty excited about kindergarten. So just encourage that and let them know that you're proud of them, that they are awesome, and that they can do this. They're independent and they know what to do to go to kindergarten. You're going to really watch an incredible thing. Like I said before, there is so much that they learn in such a short amount of time. And the number of kids in kindergarten at this point in the year that are reading stories, sounding through words, separating out the sounds, saying mat, and then going mat, and knowing how to write that is incredible. So we've got a great curriculum that helps them develop that along the way, but you're going to see some incredible changes. So be excited about that and know that you have done a lot to get them ready for that. You've worked hard all their years growing up and making it school a great place to go and learn. So daycare providers also help out with some of that routine stuff a little easier than it is for some of us at home to do. So that is an incredible gift as well. Cherish every moment. Kindergarten will be a great ride. So just be excited with your child, and they will be excited right back, I'm sure. So, and I believe that's me. Next. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Tricia. That was absolutely fabulous. No. Let's see if I can get it. I'm just going to hold it here. I wanted to say hello. My name is Elizabeth J. Hungary, and I am the Early Childhood Coordinator for the district. I want to say thank you to Terry Redlin, Ryan, and Tricia for kicking this off and allowing this wonderful, exciting evening to happen. This is an amazing, amazing turnout. And because of you, that is happening. To piggyback on everything that they have said, I think one of the biggest things that you can do is to be excited for your children. I know even as being a district employee, being in education, being a teacher, there were things that I was even scared of, but I tried my hardest not to ever put that on my kiddo. It was always encouragement and excitement, because that's really what it is. If they're scared and crying and they're coming in crying, I promise you, within 5 minutes, they're gonna be fine. Never fails, they're always fine. And it is a struggle. Take care of yourself, because I know that sometimes as a mama, dad, it's hard, whether it's your first, your second, your fifth, sixth, anyone, seventh, it's tough. I know it's tough, it never gets easier, but this is a great time. We are going to do our breakout sessions. If you are interested in kind of a Q&A, pick the kindergarten teacher's brain and talk to Ryan, you can stay in here. If you want to learn about special education and things related to that, you will be in room 141, right down the hall and to the right. We'll help you get there. And if you want to learn about just developmental things, good teaching strategies, what our curriculum might look like, some behavior, social skills, stuff like that, that'll be in the library. And do not forget to visit our booths. We had an amazing turnout, 13 booths here, or different areas that came to support this event. We have Falls Community Health, we have our food, Help Me Kids Inc. So if you want to learn about aftercare, things like that, don't be like me who didn't sign up for aftercare. When I was, the rookie sending my kid to kindergarten, and then he started kindergarten, and I was like, uh-oh, I got to work till 5. What am I going to do with my kid? And I couldn't get him in. Don't do that. So then I was scrambling at the last minute. So please visit the booths, learn more about all the resources and things that we have here within the district to help and support you.
All right, we'll get started. We'll introduce ourselves a little bit before we get started so you know who we are. I'm Jill Blaze, and I'm a teacher coordinator at Harvey Dunn, Cleveland, Garfield, and Pettigrew. That just means I help those early childhood classrooms that are in those schools.
Good.
And I'm Rose Olinger, and I'm a teacher coordinator also with the Early Childhood Program. And I work at Hawthorne, Laura B. Anderson, Annie Sullivan, and Lowell. Have taught in the Early Childhood Program for over 30 years. I won't tell you how many more are past the 30 years, but it's all been in early childhood all the years. Kind of things have changed. That's what we kind of want to try to share with you guys, how kindergarten is different than what it used to be, and try to answer questions that you may have.
And I'm Dwayne Voss. I'm the behavior specialist with the Early Childhood Program. So I will travel to all the sites. It's about 10 sites, I think, 10 sites. And so, yeah, I probably see, if you have your kid in our program, probably see them at some point or another, just even hanging out, having fun in the rooms.
Okay. Well, we're going to go over some of the things that when you think about your child going to kindergarten, some of those skills that they need, what's appropriate for this age, what maybe you can still work on before they get there. I know that the kindergarten teacher talked a lot about the math readiness skills, so we're not going to go too much over it. But just that row counting, that's just kind of that memorize 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The touch counting, actually touching those and counting those. If they can know up to 20, that's awesome. If not, it's okay. They can still work on it. So identifying those numbers, counting and saying the last number, so counting the objects and saying how many. So if they count to 10, they say, I have 10. That's what that means. And then identifying which one has more and which one has less. At this age, that's what your kiddos should be working on and doing. If they're not, don't worry about it, because they'll learn it. And so don't be worried if they don't know that yet. Everybody learns at a different level, and the kindergarten teachers know that, and they adjust for that. So don't be afraid if your kiddo doesn't know that yet, or if they're not working on it yet, don't worry about it. The kindergarten teachers will work with them. The reading and writing, recognizing their name and beginning to recognize those letters. Environmental print, when you're going to the grocery store, the things that are on the shelf, they can label those. When you're going down the street, the McDonald's and the Burger King that are going down there. Enjoying those books. Books are very good and important. Reading to your kiddos at night, having a routine where you're reading a book before they go to bed is a great idea. Drawing pictures and attempting to write. If they can draw a picture and tell you about it, maybe even label some things on there, that's really great. Again, if your child's not at that level yet, it's okay. They'll get there. And singing those songs and those finger plays and thinking about those old school nursery rhymes are really good. All those rhymes, some schools have kind of gotten out of that, but they're still really good for those kids and for the development of the reading skills. The next one is social development. This is probably the most important thing that you want your child to start learning and start doing. Getting along with others, accepting no for an answer, So are you following through with that kind of stuff at home? That's really important. It's kind of hard as a parent sometimes to tell your child no and have them throw that tantrum, but that's really important skill for them to learn is to accept that no.
And yeah, I can jump in here if you want. Just to build off what Jill's saying, I think I've kind of realized too in the last couple years that, when we think of kids being ready for school, we think, well, they got to know their letters, how to write their name, how to count, that academic piece. But really that social development and emotional development is a vital piece. You could have the brightest little kiddo in the world, but if they have the trouble with the behaviors, that can really impact the reading, the writing, the math, and all that stuff. So that's why working with your kids at this young age and really putting emphasis on it is a really key point. And so we'll talk about a couple things to hopefully help you move that along. And in case I forget, right back there, there's a stand. There's like 4 handouts just for your information about kindergarten readiness, about social emotional readiness, one about bedtime, which we'll talk a little bit about, but that's a huge piece, and also screen time. It gives good information about setting limits on screen time. And again, all this stuff will probably hit at one point or another, but you guys are the kids' first teachers. They are watching us. They are watching how we react. They are watching how we handle our emotions. And so I'm just saying that for us to keep that in the back of our minds. As the behavior specialist, I need to keep that in the back of my mind too. How am I keeping calm as I'm getting frustrated? And what am I demonstrating to the kids? Because they watch and learn from us. And so that's just kind of keep in mind. Am I managing my emotions? And what do I need to do to further teach my kids how to handle their emotions? Now, we work with the early child and we're getting ready for kindergarten. They're just learning. They're just learning the ropes. So you could have some bumps in the road on the way. But just like ABCs, teaching social and emotional skills takes repetition, repetition, repetition. They don't come into our early childhood rooms and know how to write their first letter first day. It might take dozens and dozens of times until they get it. And so keep that in the back of your mind. So teaching those social emotional skills are just as important, and it might take repetition and doing it over and over and over again. To help the teachers in the classroom start relaying the message to your kids right now that we need to listen to our teachers in the classroom or the adults in the school. Because sometimes kids are like, well, you're my teacher, I can listen to you. You're not my teacher, I don't have to listen to you. But give that message, because that's a vital life lesson, really. Because zoom out 10, 15 years, pretty soon they're going to be in the work environment. They're going to need to listen to a boss, to a supervisor. This is all skills, not just to get them through these school years. This is skills to teach them how to navigate their life in a positive way, so hopefully there's not a lot of problems. So keep all that in the back of your mind. I'm going to just say this as a quick side note. If it's a situation where your kiddo has some troubles in school, they're having a little hard time managing their emotions and regulating, work with the school. The school is out there to help. Sometimes it might feel like it might be a frustration if any of you get those phone calls here, what did my kid do today? I know that's a pain. But keep in the back of your mind too, though, that we're not doing that to drive you nuts. We're doing it. We want to problem solve. That's what we really want to do. So work with the school so you can come up with some solutions in how to help your child be successful in that classroom and in that school environment. Recognizing and labeling. You can leave it there yet, Rose. I'll run through these real quick. Recognizing and label emotions. That sounds like a pretty simple thing. But that's our ultimate goal, is for kids to talk about their feelings. Just recently too, we had a kid that would hit and kick, or you get very aggressive. And all of a sudden one day, through a lot of work by the teacher, bless their hearts, the kid came up and said, I feel mad. That is our goal. We want kids to understand mad is not a bad feeling. Sad is not a bad feeling. They're not. It's what we do when we're mad that causes problems. And that's again where the teachers, the school, the families step in to teach the kid these new skills on how to handle that mad. Maybe it's taking deep breaths. Maybe it's if a kid gets mad and they go sit down by their cubby or go sit in a chair because they need calm down time, or maybe at home, maybe it's they go sit in their room hopefully without destroying anything, go lay in their bed to calm down. That's great. That's them self-regulating and handling their emotions without causing problems. So that's our goal. So talk to kids about feelings. So if you have your kid is really mad, and maybe I don't know if you guys have any kid that gets mad and they call you names, don't worry about the names they're calling you, because let's say you have a kid, for example, I hate you, you're dumb. Do they hate you? No, they're mad. Don't focus on those negative words, focus on the feeling. So instead of focusing on the word I hate or you're dumb, say, boy, I can tell you're mad. When you're calm, I will help you. Or maybe it's sad, whatever it is. Focus on the feeling, not the hurtful words. Let me make sure there wasn't anything else I wanted to say with that. Following the rules and routine. Again, this is a lifelong skill. And so kids are geared a lot of times to kind of fight the rules and routine sometimes. I think it's just kind of, it's innate in them. But they also, I see it all the time, even with the most challenging kids. They want structure. They like that routine. It ultimately feels good to them. It doesn't mean that they're not going to fight it. But that again, where we come into, and it starts at the home, having some basic rules. Maybe you just have 3 very simple rules at the home. Following directions. If there's aggression issues, maybe it's having safe hands, cleaning up after yourself, whatever it is. I think it's good to have those safe rules and or simple rules and making sure the kids follow. Because again, that is something that's going to carry over to school. That it's not something brand new in the classroom, and that it's not a struggle for when the teachers say, okay, it's time to clean up, and then all of a sudden blocks go flying or something. So again, that's where you can help us by starting to teach those simple rules, and that we need to follow the rules. Because again, zoom out 10, 15 years, your little kiddos are going to have a job someday. They're going to need to follow the rules if they want to keep their job. One more real quick thing I want to say about that too, about structure. You know, families cannot be as structured as school. School is just a naturally very structured place, but try to set some structure within your home. You know, and we'll talk. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. The same bedtime, same type of wake-up routine. Do your best to have the same type of structure, because whether we know it or not, we need structure and routine. That's why they have the little lines on the streets. That's why they have the speed limit. Sometimes it's not fun to follow that, but we need it, because if we didn't have those lines or we didn't have those speed limits, it'd be chaos. So again, that's why structure and routine is very important. One more real quick thing, and that's okay if you went ahead, but sorry, I'm just kind of double checking my notes here. So we want them to refrain from the disruptive and aggressive and angry behaviors. And again, maybe not everybody deals with that, but some of you might be. That's where, again, we hopefully go back to teaching about feelings. We talk about different ways we can handle mad instead of hitting or kicking or whatever. I just met with a parent today, and I encouraged her. She had a kid that has aggressive behaviors. And I said, you know, when your little kiddo is in a calm state of mind, have that conversation. Boy, sometimes we get mad. What ideas do you have when you get mad? You might be shocked what great ideas your kids can come up with. Sometimes they might not come up with good ideas, but that's where we jump in and direct it to where we want. But don't just say, you know, we can't just, we're not going to hit. We need to maybe teach that new skill. The new skill would be, what can I do when I'm mad? Maybe it's going to go do some calm down time by yourself, or maybe it's taking deep breaths. There's a ton of different ways. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that, but there's a ton in the classrooms. They do deep breathing sometimes. Sometimes they do the pretzel with our early childhood kids, and that's just kind of giving yourself a tight squeeze. So it's a ton of things. Okay. I'll let one of you guys jump in there if you want.
So this one is talking about the relationships, and that's with peers and with adults, making sure they have those positive relationships, whether it's when they meet new people, having those skills to be able to introduce themselves and play with them, using that appropriate language with the adults and their peers, that they play together and they aren't fighting, or if they do have a conflict, how are they going to solve that conflict resolution. Do they have ideas to solve that problem? A lot of times in the classroom we have timers that we use. Sometimes if they want to share a toy, they get to play with that toy for that amount of time, and then it's your turn. Sometimes it's how can you work together? So how can you build that building together? And so just talking it out with them. So you can do that at home, especially if they have siblings. Those conflict resolutions are a little bit harder at home, I know, with siblings, but trying to get them to work things out and talk things out. And even if you're playing with it, I sometimes even will set up situations I know with kids that struggle and try and kind of push their buttons a little bit so we can work through a situation. So if you know your child struggles with that, you can kind of set up a little situation with maybe they want to play with your toy and say, nope, I'm building it right now. What can we do to work together? And having them try and think of some solutions that they can work together with you to build something. Or maybe they don't want to share, so then maybe you can play with it for 5 minutes and they can play with it for 5 minutes. But just working through those so that they have those skills when they go to school to work some of those things out themselves. Sustaining that conversation at supper, at meals, whenever, having that conversation with your child, talking about things that happened either during their day or maybe you guys went somewhere and you talking about that. But that's really important for that language development, is talking with your kids all the time. It's really good for them. And sometimes it gets annoying. I know as a parent it gets annoying sometimes when they talk a lot and the next one's asking those questions. Those questions sometimes get annoying, but it's really important that they learn how to do that. It shows that they're learning when they're asking questions. It shows that those gears are turning when they're asking questions, and then they'll feel comfortable to ask those questions at school. So that's really important. Participating in activities, whether it's just finding activities out in the community or whatever, but participating in activities, getting them out there to, whether you have family around that you can have them participate with, or activities out there, but just getting them to participate and making sure they aren't shy and they're confident in participating in things. If they're being helpful, they can help you with chores at home. At school, they're expected to take care of their things and take care of their stuff because it's a community, it's a family at school. So have them practice doing some chores at home if they're not. They can do something simple by just setting the table, which involves counting and sorting too, so you get into some other skills there. But have them help with chores at home, then they'll be ready for school to do that. And acknowledge how their behavior affects others. So when you hit somebody, they're going to feel sad. Those kinds of things, just how that their behavior is affecting somebody else, and seeing those emotions in somebody else, that they recognize those emotions, that it made them feel, or if they did something great, that it made you feel happy, and that they see those emotions and recognize that. It's important.
Okay, I'm going to just add a couple things to that too. So when you're talking about building relationships, or maybe how to handle yourself in public, or maybe how to handle, maybe when you get home from work and all you have, the kids are getting together and they usually get into conflict, have little pep talks with your kids. So maybe you get home before they go play and do their thing, check in with the kids, find out about their day. But then also have that pep talk about, like, okay, reminders of expectations. I want you guys to play and have fun. But we have safe hands in this house. If we get mad, we use our nice words. If you hit, then this is what will happen. You have to think about what the this will be. Maybe they need to come have a little calm down time or play at the table. Or the if-thens can be good too. Boy, if you guys play safe, then you can pick out a special snack. But I'm a firm believer in letting kids know exactly what to expect as much as possible. What to expect based on their choices. So no matter what we do, there's consequences. There's good consequences for good choices and bad consequences for bad choices. So let the kids know what to expect. But the key there, though, would be follow through on your end. If you lay out the expectation and, if someone hits, we need to follow through. So I just wanted to add that. Routines, pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to talk real quick about morning and bedtime. I'm sure you guys hear it, and and if you have a meeting with me, sleep is probably going to be one of the first things I ask about. Sleep is vital. We all need sleep, but when we're talking about young children going into kindergarten, I mean, if you guys like doing internet searches, Google sleep hygiene for kindergartners or whatever age your kids are. Sleep hygiene for preschoolers. You'll get fantastic information, and one of the documents we have here talks about sleep, so you grab that on your way out. When we see so many times in our rooms where kids just, for whatever reason, they're not getting enough sleep. And sometimes it's because of family schedules. Maybe there's something going on in their little system that they cannot settle down and hit deep sleep, whatever it is. And behaviors tend to be magnified. Now, if you have a kid that has a lot of behavior issues and all of a sudden they got that 10 to 12 hours of sleep, it doesn't mean things are going to magically disappear. But I'd be willing to bet that you're going to see behaviors improve. I bet you're going to see tantrums reduce. Hopefully they're not as long. So we could spend an hour talking about sleep, but I'm going to just say read up on it, educate yourself. So routines with sleep, setting up a good bedtime routine. You know, if bedtimes take an hour or two before your kid settles down, you might want to relook the routine. You know, we talk about eliminating screen time and electronic devices, and screen time is not just the video games, it's your cell phones. That the light that comes off the cell phone can affect the kids. The content, you know, is it something that's really stimulating their mind? Try to eliminate, and if not, get rid of screen time a couple hours before bedtime. Okay, I'm going to say this real quick since I'm talking about screen time. Watch the content of what your kids are watching. Make sure it's age appropriate. Video games, make sure if you do have hopefully just short periods of time where they can play a video game, make sure the video games are appropriate.
I'm going to say something about
Yeah.
video games too. Also, whoever else is playing video games in your house, I know dads play video games and older brothers and sisters play video games, or whoever's at your house. Even if that your child's not playing the game, if they're watching them play the game, making sure that that game's appropriate for them. Because that age limit on that game is for even watching it, because the kids really get into the game even if they're not playing it. So just be cautious of that too.
And I'll let you on a little secret. If that is happening, we hear about it in school. Oh, so-and-so was playing Call of Duty. We hear about it all the time. So just beware. And again, if you have a kid that struggles to get to bed, focus on that, because let's say all of a sudden you have a kid that doesn't go to bed till 10 o'clock and you really work hard to get them asleep by 7:30 or 8 o'clock. Whose time is it once they're asleep? That's your time to do. Maybe that's when you can do your little void games, or maybe you grab a book or whatever. So think of it, you can be a little selfish in that way too. If I can get my kiddo asleep, then you have some time to kind of recharge your batteries too. Morning routine is actually about as important as that bedtime routine. I don't know if you guys have the kid that struggles in the morning, maybe it takes them forever to get ready, or maybe I'm gonna watch a cartoon before I have breakfast, and all of a sudden you're scrambling to get out the door. Do your best to have a set morning routine. Sure, maybe they can flip on the TV for a little bit, but they need to eat, get dressed, brush your teeth, then you can earn your whatever privilege it is. Maybe it is a little bit of screen time. So we see it often too when that morning is a struggle at home, and sometimes you can't avoid it, but it's not unusual for it to carry over at least at the beginning of the day in the classroom. So that morning routine is equally important. Anything else from there? Reducing caffeine and sugar. Obviously, you guys are probably aware of that. You know, if they're going to have caffeine or sugar, try not to have it at least for a few hours before bedtime, because that can get that old heart ticking. And you know, I'm sure you guys maybe have experienced it. Once that kid is wound up again, it's hard to get them settled down.
Just the healthy meal all over. We're seeing, I don't know, over the years I'm seeing more and more children be pickier eaters, and they're not being exposed to a variety of foods. So at my house, when my kids were growing up, it was the meal that was on the table. I didn't make a second supper. It's like children regulate themselves, and if they're hungry, they're going to eat the food. But they need all the groups. They need the vegetables. They need the fruits. They need. We see illnesses go through school. Kids that are sick more often than other children probably aren't very good eaters. They're probably not very good sleepers. You know, the whole game. So it's kind of a domino effect with a lot of these things, between the sleeping, the eating, the routines, life in general. Really takes a toll on little kids, even when they're 5 years old. So.
And if you think your child's not going to eat the school lunch, at least give it a try, because you'll be surprised at what your kids do eat at school. I know when we talk to parents and have conferences with parents with our kids, our early childhood kiddos eat the same food that they eat in elementary and all the other schools. And I know parents are always shocked of how much or what kinds of foods that they eat when they're at school. So when they see other kiddos eating it, they like to eat it too. So at least give it a try. See if your kiddos will eat the lunch. But
What's the next one?
I think that was it. Oh, what you can do. So basically what you can do as a parent is some of the things that we've already been talking about. You know, like we said, the electronics have kind of taken over spending time and honestly reading to your child. There is data. It hasn't changed over the years that reading is one of the largest benefits to children. So It doesn't mean reading a long book. It doesn't mean reading it word for word. It can mean that you just sit down and look at the pictures in a book. It can be one book. Some kids, you know, it's like they're on their fourth book. So you set whatever routine that you want, but reading is, wouldn't you say, one of the largest predictors of what your child is going to have for vocabulary. It's going to help them with their attention span. It's going to help them get ready for reading. Everything about the school day, just reading to your child a book. So that's one of my largest things that I can tell you about. Talk to your child about what they're doing. Again, it's like what she was saying with that conversation, helping your child solve problems, giving your child those simple responsibilities. And when you get to school, again, when she said that partnership, we see a lot of things stay in backpacks for weeks. So when the school sends something home, it doesn't get taken out. So a lot of schools have set a day. So some schools have Monday folders or Thursday folders, and the school has purchased a folder, and there's important things that need to go home with your child. So find out what day that is. That's the day you should check the bag for things from the school. Some schools have gone to the social media. They might have a Facebook page. Maybe your teacher has a page. Maybe people like to do email, or a lot of our teachers in our program have even gone to texting, and they have a text number. So, you know, using Google Text or whatever it may be. So communicate with the teacher, with the school, with what is going on. If your child is sick, if something is going on, tell the school my child's going to be gone, all those kinds of things. It seems simple, but you wouldn't believe how many times we don't get phone calls and the office is tracking children down and why is your child gone today? So just those simple little things. That's why we consider it become a partner with your child and the school, the teachers throughout. It's a journey. It's going to start in kindergarten, and it's going to be a journey for the next, 12 years. 12, 13. So if sometimes it doesn't seem like little changes make a difference in kids' lives, but sometimes changing daycare, sometimes the new baby in the household, maybe you're moving. All children act differently when things are happening in your life. So if you notice a change in your child, you might want to communicate that with the school. So. Any questions?
I'm going to add one thing too. It just occurred to me too while you're talking about the reading, and throw out a challenge. Like if you do spend some time with your kid reading, or maybe you're playing a game, challenge you guys to turn this off. Don't let there be any distraction. Let your attention to your kid be 100%. Because again, zoom out when they're a teenager and they have their little, who knows what technology will be like in 10 years. But you're teaching them a good standard, like when the person in front of me is the most important thing right now. So just a little challenge to think about.